go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls. I'm broadcasting. Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
Hello, my pretties. Welcome to Planet 8. Happy Halloween!
Trick or treat? Oh, well, let me see if I have something for you. When boils and ghouls ring my bell, Mr. Lobo fills their pillowcases well. But tricking traitors, I'm warning you, if you knock on my door, then the trick's on you. Sour mothballs, life or death savers, apples that double as disposable shavers, a few dust bunnies and some rusty nuts, hamster pellets and Reese's lung butter cups. Some Halloween candy sure does the trick. Mint pocket lint and Mr. Salt Lick. Grandma's expired meds from when she was sick. Gummy erasers and corduroy chafers. But first things first, do you mind signing this waiver? Refried jelly beans for all you rookies. Confrontation hearts and misfortune cookies. Lipo suckers and a half-eaten wiener. I sure hope your mom's one hell of a screener. Some Halloween candy sure does the trick. All right, you know how this works. Open your bags. One for you, and one for you. Caramel-coated shrapnel and a cherry rash. Some medical waste that I saved from the trash. Barbara Hershey's miniatures and wingnut brittle. Just like the kind from when Mr. Lobo was little. Frostbites, bug lights, tasty pins. Look out, jagged lids from old cat food tins. Horse and milk and double-dipped Lego blocks. Chocolate-covered femurs, dusted with chalk. Some Halloween candy sure does the trick. So insomniacs, when you rang my bell, Mr. Lobo filled your pillowcases well. But tricking traitors, I warned you twice, the treats you take home won't be so nice. Black-covered shoppers and angry tears, marshmallow night terrors and chronic diarrheas, puking all night in a plastic pumpkin pail. It's almost worth going to jail. Some Halloween candy sure does the trick.
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your Mission Commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen.
And on this episode of Planet 8, we have a very special guest with us. Mr. Lobo from Cinema Insomnia is joining your intrepid crew. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about all things Halloween. Straight away, we'll kick it off to Chief Engineer Bob. Bob, take it away.
Well, I did a little background check on Halloween. We're doing Halloween the holiday, by the way, not the movie series or any of that. So I traced the roots of Halloween back to, they said it was the Samhain, a celebration from 2,000 years ago. So it's been around for a long, long time. It originated with the Celtics from Ireland, the UK, and northern France. So November 1st marked the end of summer and the beginning of the cold, dark days of autumn and winter. It was also the end of the harvest season. The Celts believed that on the night before November 1st, the gates between the living and the dead would become blurred, allowing the dimensions to cross, and because of this, October 31st became All Hallows' Eve, when the dead would walk the earth. So, right there, it's a hell of a lot cooler than Christmas, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. By a country mile.
I mean, you talk about the dead walking the earth and everything else. So
you can't make a Lifetime movie out of that.
I guess you could, but so anyway, the Druids would build huge bonfires where people would burn crops and animals as sacrifices, and they would also wear costumes, mostly like animal heads and robes or skins. I guess kind of like Motel Hell, right?
Right.
The pig head, and I don't think they had chainsaws back there then.
No.
But
very, very primitive chainsaws, sort of like Gilligan's Island kind of.
There you go. Chainsaws made of coconuts.
Yeah, coconuts and bamboo.
So later, when the people would return home, they would light fires in their fireplace using flames from the bonfire for protection. So then in 43 A.D., the Roman Empire conquered the Celtics, and over the 400 years that they ruled, their festival and the festival from the Celtics were combined, and that would come out on October 31st, marking that as All Hallows Eve, and which would later morph into Halloween. Later, Christianity spread through the area, and we all know how that goes. Their All Souls Day was November 2nd, a day to honor the dead. And what was also combined with these festivals and known as, and I don't even know if I can pronounce this, O'Hallowees, I believe it is, which eventually became the word Halloween. So
basically the evening before All Saints Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the 19th century, America got involved.
As we often do.
That's right. As they were flooded by immigrants, and a big part of the Irish fleeing the potato famine, they would bring over the holiday. And it was here in America where the practice of trick-or-treating started. And during the baby boom of the 1950s, Halloween kind of changed its focus to be more of a children's holiday. So, I don't know if they looked at it and said, we're worshiping the dead, and the gates of hell are opening. Let's make this a children's holiday.
They could just sell a lot of masks, and sell a lot of candy. I think that, in true capitalist splendor, people will spend on their kids before they will spend on themselves. So I think that, like Christmas and a lot of holidays, that's the driving thing. You don't want your kid to be without the cool costume or the cool candy or the cool whatever.
Yeah, well, I mean, leave it to America to commercialialize the whole thing.
But we made it fun, too, so we get that.
I got to say, growing up, that was even now, still, is my favorite holiday.
You go trick-or-treating, get some candy and costume.
And
what's interesting? Poor Irish kids were going out trick-or-treating, they get potatoes.
Yeah, that's right. Were they carving faces on potatoes before pumpkins?
Mr. Potato Head.
Where Mr. Potato Head came from?
That's right.
Maybe.
I think what's interesting about Halloween versus any other holiday, and I've said this on stage a few times, Halloween is the only holiday where you invite strangers to your house. So it's a community holiday. Most holidays it's like, you have a big dinner with your family, or you open presents, or you exchange presents with your friends. This is kind of a thing where you have parties and you go door to door. And, like I said, it's a community holiday, and we don't have a lot of community spaces. We don't have a lot of things culturally that we all do together. So I think that's one of the other things that makes Halloween really cool, is that it's kind of there's this invitation that's implied.
That's a really good point.
Oh.
No, definitely. And, let's start way back when we were wee lads or lassies. And
as the case may be.
What were some of your, Halloween traditions back as a kid?
Who goes first?
Karen.
You're the guest.
Karen.
Yeah, Mr. Lobo, he's the guest.
Oh, well, I mean, we it is interesting, how much, growing up in a world fed by, television and everything else. But, it was about, the monster cereals, and it was about, getting your costume together. And I was like the weird kid who was getting their costume together from January forward, and, it was always this thing of like, what am I going to be for Halloween this year? January 1st, usually. So if I wanted to be Darth Vader, I spent the whole year just collecting things. Okay, this tape recorder is going to be my chest mechanism, and when I play the tape on my chest, it's going to play this breathing and, this weird, I could probably reshape this Tupperware bowl to be Vader's helmet. And, I could buy the Ben Cooper mask, but just cut the face out of it and use the detailing from the Ben Cooper plastic mask for just the face part. And then I saved my glasses from the Eclipse and put the silver lenses inside so you couldn't see my eyes inside the Ben Cooper mask, and so I was this extra weird kid where it was definitely an excuse to let my creative freak flag fly. And there was, I had the alien doll from the movie, and we covered him in ketchup and had him drop down on people with a string, and then don't ever put ketchup on your alien doll, for goodness sakes. That smell never came out of that doll. And that Kenner alien doll is worth a fortune today.
So whenever you smell ketchup, you immediately think of Alien.
One year I was Yoda, and I did like a dwarf thing where I put these feet on my knees, and 'cause I was the tallest kid in school, and I wanted to be Yoda like a fool. And so I literally was crawling around on my knees from house to house, and my knees were just torn and bloodied by the end of the night.
Oh.
And it was always this thing of making, poor visibility and stuff. But my mom was really strict with the candy. I don't know how it was with the rest of you, but she definitely screened everything. She was very paranoid. And maybe it wasn't paranoia. They just got all the cool stuff for themselves. I feel like that was always the ruse, where they got the cool candy bars and things.
Well, I could imagine a young Mr. Lobo as Yoda, and the following year, friends and family saying, "You got to be E.T." And he's like, "Screw you guys."
Right, exactly. I probably considered being E.T. and then quickly reconsidered. But Spiderman was another one, too, where I took the Ben Cooper mask, the plastic mask, and just used the front of it. And then I got like a red nylon and drew the webbing to go on the whole back of I made a whole back of my head to go with that costume.
That's like dedication. I had a lot of Ben Cooper outfits, but I stuck with the vinyl with a picture of the character on the front.
And they're probably you could probably resell them all because they're in perfect condition.
Oh no, they're all long gone. But
they're all long gone.
I don't know.
And
we had some pretty rough Halloweens. I don't know if the costumes made it through them all. But
anyway, so those are some things. And candy was definitely one of those things where, like I said, I felt like there was the screen. That was always the dreaded part because I didn't get to keep all the candy. I only got to get some of the candy. But it was great after doing the trick-or-treating, that reward of coming home and watching Creature Features or watching Bob Wilkins' Double Horror or whatever horror movie that was on, and getting to enjoy that candy and of course the Charlie Brown special. I look forward to that.
Right. It's a good one.
Too, but,
It's interesting because our mother was that way too, and I don't, she would maybe she watched too many spy films. But she'd take the candy up to the light and shine it in the light. What are you seeing? By what method or process is this science or magic?
This is a counterfeit peanut butter cup.
Yes, I guess someone could slip a pin right into that Three Musketeers.
Yes. My mom would cut some of the candy bars 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
It's like, what? There's nothing in there. But the paranoia ran deep. So
and that was interesting because there was, I forgot what the movie was, but there was a documentary that had come out maybe like 10 years ago where it's like, they could pretty much trace it back to one case where some really horrible parent poisoned their own kids, and then to cover it up, they had handed out some poison candy to some other kids. And so that was a thing that, like a lot of paranoia, it was this thing that was like people were nationally paranoid about, but there wasn't really a lot of evidence to back up that it had ever even happened.
Right. It becomes like an urban myth after that, and they add on to.
It was always razor blades hidden in the apples.
Yeah.
I think that was just an excuse to not give out apples.
No, I mean, my parents didn't screen my candy at all. I guess I was living life on the edge.
You rode.
Wow. You're a rebel.
I was.
I can imagine Bob quoting Star Trek, "Risk, gentlemen, risk." We trained all year for this night.
It's interesting because the person who gave out apples, and not because of razor blades, the kids hated getting apples, but the one poor old guy who got apples, his whole yard was just littered with apples because as soon as they got them, they would just take it right out of their bag and drop it on the floor, or most likely just turn around at the sidewalk and throw it at the house, you know?
I remember this one guy in the neighborhood. We were like 5 or 6. I can't think of his name. Nice guy. And on Halloween, he'd have like orange soda, grape soda, strawberry soda. And right there in front of us, cracking up the sodas, he must have been a bartender because he would mix like the red, with the orange. Give us like a soda punch kind of like.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was different. So we were like, having a good time that night.
Well, wasn't it? Didn't Bart Simpson have like an acid trip after like mixing slushies?
I just remember him drinking the water at the dark ride and hallucinating, but I don't remember the slushy acid trip. I need to brush up on some of my Simpsons.
I think it was probably an early one because I haven't watched it in years. But
I mean, those Simpsons Halloween episodes are amazing. I feel like that's become kind of a modern tradition that a lot of people, like every year, that's their go-to thing is to watch those Simpsons Halloween specials.
Yeah, the Treehouse of Terror. Those are really, really well made.
Yeah, hilarious. Did you see the one that Guillermo del Toro directed the intro for? No. It's pretty amazing. There's like 1 million movie references in it. It's worth checking out. But it's just you're zooming through Springfield, but you're seeing like the Cyclops from Sinbad, and there's like all these like cool Day the Earth Stood Still. Everything you can think of is just hidden. In like the whip pans and stuff, you can see all these things from all of these horror and sci-fi movies. It's pretty great.
You could probably find just that opening on YouTube or something.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Huh.
Well, Disney, I mean, if you go to Disney, they own like half of like whatever the genre of films and TV shows are nowadays.
Oh boy.
So.
Well, I'll tell you what. Do you guys remember, and this leads to like a friend of mine's Ben Cooper cool Halloween costume, but there was a drink, and this might predate you guys. You're not like old like me, but
oh boy,
this was like in the 60s.
Tell us about it, Grandpa Bob.
This was like in the 60s. They had like this really sugary drink, like juice, that was in like wax bottles.
Yes.
And it was called Spook.
Oh.
And the mascots were like 4 ghosts with Beatle wigs.
Wow.
Because they were like cashing in on the Beatles and all that. And a friend of mine actually had a Ben Cooper Halloween costume of one of those ghosts.
Wow.
I remember Freaky's cereal. Do you remember Freaky's?
Oh, yeah.
I have all the Freaky's figures, the little plastic figures, except for one. I'm missing one.
Of course you do.
I found them down, boxed away in the basement, so...
But anything like that, I think that's kind of suggested monsters. I think that the monster kids gravitated to. The monster cereals. Does everyone have a favorite here? I want to know if you guys have a favorite monster cereal.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Count Chocula.
Count Chocula.
Oh yeah.
Mine is Frankenberry.
Okay.
Yeah, I would go with Frankenberry.
Frankenberry.
Yeah.
See, I'm a Frankenberry person too, but there are some diehard Blueberry guys. I remember having Fruit Brute also, but he didn't last very long. But the thing about it is that if you have it today, it is not the same cereal at all.
You can tell.
It used to have oat in it, like Lucky Charms, so there was more of an oaty flavor. Mm-hmm. So I've been using the oat milk in my monster cereal to try to bring back some of that flavor that it doesn't have anymore,
I was at the store the other day and I scored one of the Monster Mash cereal.
Okay, so do they mix up all the different cereals? Is that what it is?
Sort of. They're kind of original, but every cereal's represented.
Yeah, so the cereal, what used to be the oat part, is berry flavored, which is kind of like Frankenberry.
Okay.
And then the marshmallows are like Fruit Brute, Blueberry, Chocula, and
I don't know.
Surprisingly, it's very good. I've opened the box and had some.
I don't think my digestive system could handle it at this stage of life. That's a lot of mixing of flavors, you know.
It's kind of just I feel like it's more like just a novelty. You know, I had a bowl as just a curiosity. I actually did what I liked a little better than the Monster Mash was the Ghostbusters cereal that's out right now. Huh. It does taste somewhat reminiscent of the Purina Ghostbusters cereal from the 80s, but it's not as cool. The one from the 80s had little negate symbols, you know, the little no ghost thing. So it was little Fruit Loop negate symbols originally with Marshmallow Ghost, but this is and this, of course, is made by General Mills now, so they're getting their money. If you get the Monster cereal or if you get Ghostbusters, General Mills is getting your money.
They're raking it in.
But they're just these little kind of puffs now that are fruit flavored, and then it has not only the Marshmallow Ghost, but of course little Stay Puffed marshmallow bit. But it's pretty good. I don't like a lot of marshmallows, so I feel like the Monster Mash had too much marshmallow. I thought I love how we're doing a full critique of these cereals now. Yeah, but I thought the new Ghostbusters cereal for this new movie was pretty okay. I liked it.
So it's Planet 8, brought to you by General Mills.
Yeah, maybe we can score a little something here. We'll see.
Yeah. Sponsorship. For crying out loud. You guys are working hard putting on this great show. Who's paying the bill?
Really?
Send us a case of cereal.
We'll be talking to Kellogg's next week.
Back in the day, would you have like a Halloween parade at school? I remember in grade school.
Oh, yeah.
They would have us all march out there. Did anyone ever
first
win,
place?
A prize?
I won first place twice.
You did?
Yeah. My dad and I did the classic robot with the box for a head, box for a body, and the dryer hose arms covered in tinfoil. Somehow that crap won. And then when the Incredible Hulk show came on, the Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk, my mom spent an untold fortune in green eyeshadow from Macy's.
Oh, my God.
And covered my whole body in green eyeshadow, and I tore my dungarees to look like David Banner's or my Wranglers or whatever they were, Huskies. That's probably what they were, Tough Skins, whatever appropriate 1970s pants.
Were they purple?
And they were burgundy.
Oh,
they were burgundy.
Close. Okay.
And then it was pretty close. And then I had a torn shirt over the shoulders like Lou Ferrigno. I didn't go totally bare-chested. I had a torn shirt over the shoulders.
Were you barefoot?
And I had sandals. My mom spray-painted some sandals.
So you need those green slippers like Lou Ferrigno had.
Oh, wow. I didn't know he wore slippers. Oh,
green. What were they? Gold, slippers or tennis shoes or whatever. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He had those
but what's
little
really funny is,
pictures.
I mean, green eyeshadow. I mean, I mean, that is really expensive. The prize was a gift certificate to Baskin Robbins. I'm thinking to myself, my parents just could have just taken me to Baskin Robbins. You know, this is that's a ridiculous amount of money to spend. Just
there's no price on prestige.
But when she covered you in eyeshadow, did she use that little brush that comes with it?
She did. It must
have taken forever to do that.
It did. She got like she actually used the one for your rouge. You know, she used the slightly bigger brush, so the rouge one. But yeah, that was another one, and I have one more contest story.
Well, real quickly, Mr. Lobo.
Okay, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. I don't want to dominate the conversation.
No. I'm totally impressed that your mother went to Macy's and not Woolworths. Mine would have definitely gone to Woolworths. And I need to know, what was your third story here? I mean, that's
pretty wild, right? It's interesting because, like I said, I did dress as the Incredible Hulk, and I always wanted to tell Lou Ferrigno that story. And he was at a table next to us, and I never did tell him because he was real cranky to his fans that day, and it kind of killed my.
Is there photographic evidence of these costumes?
I think my mom has this blackmail material somewhere.
Polaroid or two.
Just like she's got a picture of me at Universal Studios lifting the A-Team van, as a kid. But the third story is kind of interesting because, again, I had this reputation for being artistic in school. Artistic and maybe autistic, I don't know. But they had me do this. We entered this contest at the Nut Tree. You guys remember the Nut Tree?
I remember the Nut Tree very well. Yes.
At the Nut Tree, they had this big pumpkin patch deal every year.
Yep.
And they had a pumpkin patch costume where people carved pumpkins. And so I designed this, and there are pictures of it somewhere. But I designed this kind of tableau with Luke Scarecrower and Patch Vader crossing glowing, not the cool lightsabers they have today, the ones you get at the sporting goods store that's just like the white plastic tube in the flashlight lightsaber. So flashlight sabers. And so they've got their two flashlight sabers crossed and we wired them together. And then Luke Skywalker had straw hair, and Patch Vader, and he had a pumpkin for a head. And then Patch Vader had a pumpkin for a head, but he had like that dumb Tupperware bowl again for the Vader helmet. And I think he may have even had the tape recorder around his neck. But, I did a sign with the Millennium Falcon flying, with those weird gold stars that they put on the top, on your forehead, coming out of the back of the Millennium Falcon, as like that's supposed to be light coming out of the back of it or whatever. Yeah, it was really ridiculous, but that one won a prize of some sort. I don't think it won first prize, but I think it won one of the, I don't know, it was first, second, or third, but it definitely won a prize, and that was kind of like it's weird because, now I feel like they bring out Star Wars really hard for Halloween, but I feel like for me, being, like I said, I'm a 70s kid, Star Wars was kind of always part of my Halloween a little bit.
Very, very cool.
See, I won a bunch of costume contests, but it was like at work. So it was like, I was an adult. So,
well, what's the office costume? What's the office costume party like?
It used to be a lot of fun because I'm back working at the company that I used to work at, and we have like not as many employees, but back when we had a bunch of employees, and we'd do a whole Halloween party and dress up and everything else. There was one year that as part of Bay Area film events, we did a Halloween show at the Del Mar Theater in Santa Cruz. And that was like the premiere of Watch Horror Films, Keep America Strong. And we had Night of the Living Dead, and John Stanley was there, and Tom Worsh and everybody. So we had the whole lobby and the upper area all decked out for Halloween. So instead of taking all that home, I dropped it off at work. And then a couple employees and I stayed until like midnight the night before the party and like decked out this one demo room as a haunted house.
Awesome.
And Halloween, I tell you, when I was living in my old house in Hayward and we got 200 kids, one neighbor and I used to have contests at Halloween who could deck out their house the best. And he was kind of like this whiz kid. He used to like build monitors for NASA that would be on the space shuttle and things. So he had all the,
one of those kids.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like you step on this and a ghost falls down, or you go through a light trigger and then, there's evil laughing or whatever. And I was more the prop guy, so I would have like a bunch of props all over the house and stuff. But even last year here we decked the place out. On Halloween. We moved everything back into the backyard and had a Halloween party back here. But I've got a bunch.
What's your porch look like on Halloween? I mean, do you deck out the front of your house?
Oh yeah, we go all out. Yeah. In fact, of course, when Spirit has their after Halloween sales, we would go down and buy them out. Last year, I got this really cool like two-headed rat. Animatronic two-headed rat.
Oh, wow.
And it's down in the basement. It's underneath in one of my storage areas. And when we got Sonic Internet, the guy was running a fiber line under there. And he goes crawling under the basement and comes like face to face with this two-headed rat down there. Jeez. It's pretty good. This thing's like 3 foot long and, 1.5 feet high. But I may take that to work and put it on my desk or above my desk or something.
It's amazing the quality of the stuff that they have now. It's almost like Hollywood quality stuff. Whereas, like, there was no, I don't think especially in the 70s and 80s and probably the 60s too, there wasn't any pretension that anything had to really look real. It was more kind of, it had a novelty to it to where it was more about looking fun than looking real.
Well, you would put like a white sheet over a beach ball or something, and there's a ghost. Or you'd get baggy clothes with like some paper hanging out, and then you'd lay there until somebody comes by and.
Now? Did you ever do movie shows? Well, Bob, you and I have done some movie shows on Halloween.
Oh, plenty.
We did that show. Yeah, plenty.
I did one with Lord Bloodraw one year. And
we did those shows with the Ghoul. Remember that?
Well, yeah, we did the show with the Ghoul, which Mr. Lobo was there taking part in both shows. And,
I was just there to assist, but the Ghoul taught me a lot of things. One of the things he said is to never put a live firecracker in your lab coat. So I've always taken that advice to heart.
And to this day, we haven't done it.
I still have all my fingers.
The aforementioned watch horror films, keep America strong at the Del Mar. How many times? Okay, here's a question for Mr. Lobo. How many times have you shown or hosted Night of the Living Dead for Halloween?
Oh wow, countless times, because of course it's a movie that you don't have to license, so it's everyone's programmer. Yeah. I think we showed it at Shakatumi, we showed it at the Bow, we showed it at we've showed it at Will's Thrillville shows. We've shown it at conventions. It's a programmer, and it's amazing because it holds up so amazingly well. And we're actually doing a film festival next year that we're prepping for this year called Stories of the Living Dead, where we're encouraging independent filmmakers to make short films in that world of that first movie. And then next year on Halloween, we want to show, Night of the Living Dead, and then present a bunch of original short films in that world of Night of the Living Dead.
That would be cool.
That sounds cool. And listeners, not to embarrass Mr. Lobo, but behind him, he's playing Night of the Living Dead as we speak.
Yeah. Night of the Living Dead.
Well, it's sort of the Christmas Carol or the White Christmas of Halloween. So,
and for horror hosts too, it's always like their first show or their first syndicated show or their special Halloween show because it's the best movie they can get away with showing.
I mean, it sucks for George Romero, but what a gift to the horror host, because my wife had never seen that movie, and Judith O'Day was coming on the show, and I was watching it, and all the parts that, you needed to jump and gasp, and it still works. It still, to this day, if someone has never seen that film, it pops. And it's priceless. I mean, really.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's a gift to the world. And maybe it was meant to be that way, because it is something, I know everyone who worked on it, their star rose because it was so accessible and people got to see it. There probably were films as brilliant as Night of the Living Dead or more brilliant than Night of the Living Dead that were never proliferated and just fell off the face of the earth. And, the creators of those things didn't get that second, third, fourth chance to show what they can do. We wouldn't, if it wasn't for Night of the Living Dead, we wouldn't have Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead or the other branch with the Return of the Living Dead and all of that. So, it is kind of I'm sure it's a blessing and a curse for the people who accidentally, which I think the story is that it was going to be Night of the Anubis, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Bob, but I think it was going to be Night of the Anubis, and then the distributor didn't like that title, so the movie went out without the copyright notice. With that,
they changed it to Night of the Living Dead like at the last millisecond.
So the movie even though the movie Night of the Anubis would have been copyrighted had it come out that way, Night of the Living Dead went out without a copyright notice. And at that time, if you start publicly exhibiting something without that notice, it was like giving it away.
Mm. Well, that's what happened with the video of my bar mitzvah.
And it was terrifying as well.
Hey, getting back to the props at like Lowe's or Spirit, listeners, you can't see this, and I've shown Bob and Karen, but this guy,
Horse, is
here in the office, and it has a voice, the pumpkin head, lights up and I had my wife come into my office to get my checkbook for me, and it was on and it's motion, and it just, she ran out of the office. She said, well, I won't say what she said, but these things are so fun. And when you get them at like a fraction of the cost, of course you have to display them in your room. You can't put them,
you don't want
in the right.
Out in the weather, out in the cold, that poor baby out in the cold.
I tried to explain to her, well, when we start going to conventions again, the headless horseman is going to be there as a display item, and it didn't really help my
honestly,
much.
I feel like the Disney movie of the headless horseman did a lot to fill in how cool that character could be and how fun that character could be. And I feel like that's one of the things I really think about when I think of the visuals of Halloween, the swirling colored orange leaves and the sort of strange, colonial affects and the pumpkin flying at the screen with the flames coming out. I mean, those bright autumn colors and that kind of, I don't know, campfire tale. I mean, I feel like that's like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer of Halloween.
Well, don't underestimate Disney when it comes to your images of Halloween growing up, because they had that. They had Mickey and Goofy cartoons where they going into haunted houses, and don't forget the thrilling, chilling sounds of the haunted house record.
Oh yes, absolutely, yes. It's always like, you are an expert marksman. You are whatever, right? You are whatever. You are a EMT worker.
Or even the Haunted Mansion.
I'm going to shoot a little plug towards Mr. Lobo's way. Last year, I picked up your horror noises of Mr. Lobo's very bad manner. What a love letter to Disney! I mean, that was like great.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we did. Of course, there's thrilling, chilling sounds of the horror of the haunted house, which of course came out with the orange bordered and the white. The white bordered was the one from the '60s, but I grew up with the one with the orange border.
That's mine. Yeah, exactly.
I still have the white border.
Oh,
down in the basement.
You do, Bob. We'll all come over and bask in its glory.
And for those of you that aren't watching visually, because we're not doing this visually, Karen did just flash her Haunted Mansion T-shirt that she's wearing for this episode.
I love.
That's all I flashed.
That's right. Planet 8 too hot for TV. No, but we, the Disney's Haunted Mansion, which is weird because I always associated the thrilling, chilling sounds of the haunted house with the Haunted Mansion from Disneyland, but they're totally unrelated to each other. There is a separate Haunted Mansion record, which I also had as a kid. But the thrilling, chilling sounds of the haunted house was really great because, like a lot of records, it was sort of a sound effects record where they gave you a little bit of a story, and then after that little bit of a story, they just let the sound effects play and let your imagination run wild in the soundscape of all these weird. And it's always that weird one scream, like, but what's interesting about it is, like, when I wanted to record the horrible noises of Mr. Lobo's very bad manner, we did a painting of it, and if you see the cover of the record, we have an old a trailer, like RV, in the place of the house, and then a bunch of junk in the yard in the place of the tombstone. So there's like a flamingo and a tire and a mailbox. And then the lightning is really electricity coming. Instead of the lightning in the tree, it's electricity coming off of a phone pole in the corner. But we did this parody, and I just recorded 10 tracks that were direct kind of Mad Magazine sort of spoofs of the original 10 tracks of the album. But on the real album, on the back, it was just sound effects without any stories. So for the second 10 tracks of my album, I just made up 10 original stories But yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'd love to do more Halloween records and music. I think that's one of an interesting thing that a lot of horror hosts end up doing is doing Halloween content, either reading stories on records or creating novelty songs. I'm watching TV and Halloween Candy and a few songs that I've done for Cinema Insomnia. And, I'm not a musician and I don't have a heck of a lot of talent for music, but, it's fun to be able to play with musicians like Scott Moon, who we both did a lot of legendary Halloween parties. And kind of bring some some fun to life for your earballs.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, I've got like a really quick story which relates to Halloween, but also relates to Return of the Living Dead.
Ooh.
And that is, like I say, last year we decked out the house like crazy. And months later, we were outside kind of digging in the garden, Debbie and I, and this guy rolls up, who I've seen him around the neighborhood. He rolls around in this like wheelchair, but he doesn't have any legs. He's missing legs. And he comes up and he goes, "Hey, I just wanted to let you guys know I really enjoyed your decorations this year." And I'm, "Oh, great, great." And he goes, "You know what? I was in Return of the Living Dead too." I'm like, "What?"
Oh, wow.
And he is the legless zombie in Return of the Living Dead Part 2.
Oh, that's cool.
And he's
that's
like, lives in my neighborhood somewhere. So
apparently that was a movie that was originally supposed to be a standalone kids movie with monsters. And then, the typical studio meddling, they're like, "Well, you can do whatever you want. Here's a budget, but it's got to be Return of the Living Dead Part 2. And so they made that movie and they they put actors from the first movie because everyone dies in the first one. So they just use the same actors again in different characters. But I thought, it's interesting because at the time I didn't appreciate it as much, but I actually really do love the second one. I mean, I think it's definitely a fun movie. And certainly, my kids enjoyed the second one a lot and laughed real hard, and it's nice to there's such a small list of really fun kind of edgy horror films that you can, enjoy with your kids when they get to that twilight of wanting to enjoy kind of scarier material.
Well, next time you watch it, watch for the legless zombie. Richard Moore is the guy's name. If you want to look him up.
All right, that's cool.
But, it was a nice surprise.
I know exactly the scene you're talking about. Yeah. That's cool.
I'm going to have to rewatch that because I remember after the first film, the second and third and so on kind of disappointed me because I was like, well, I don't know. But I'll give it another go-round. Jasmine and I watched Psycho Gorman last night off of Amazon, and that was kind of like it had an 80s feel to it, but it was not for kids, but it was funny, and it did star kids. The kids were the stars of the film.
It's sort of like a horror Power Rangers, right? I haven't seen it yet.
There's a scene that is kind of Power Ranger-ish, but it's Canadian, so right there.
Yeah. Say no more.
What are you trying to say?
Canadian Power Rangers, right up Larry's alley.
They awaken this kind of like a Thanos creature, very strong, omnipotent, intergalactic, destroyed planets, and this jewel controls him though. And so he's like, "I will drink your blood and I will." And she's like, "Stop, shut up and sit down." And he's like, "Ugh." And so he has to shut up and sit down. And so this, 10-year-old girl has him playing dress up with her and stuff. And
oh, that sounds fun.
It is fun. It's kind of amusing. Yeah, if you get a chance, check it out.
Did this director do anything else, or do you know?
We watched it late last night after. I try to mix up things that genre related things, and then different. So we watched Ted Lasso.
What is it called?
It's called Psycho Gorman.
No. What was the other thing you watched?
Oh, Ted Lasso.
Oh, Ted Lasso. I don't know that.
It's like a non-genre related TV show on Apple. Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, it was a late night. I didn't have a chance to research the Psycho Gorman folks.
Okay, well that's I just know that they definitely made a splash with that, and it's always kind of fun where something you weren't expecting, because we're living in this world where everything's a remake, reimagining, retooling, soft reboot, hard reboot, continuing, furthering, because no one wants to take any risks. And it's really fun when I go to a horror convention and I see a bunch of people wearing a shirt or of a movie I've never heard of. It's encouraging.
Absolutely. I recommend it. It was, it has some issues, but it was different, and it really reminded me of like something I'd watch in the 80s. There were some elements of the Power Rangers here and there as I think about it. And then, there's this character that is all decked out like a Power Ranger, and I don't want to spoil anything, but then this like really gory scene happens, and you're like, whoa.
It's a culture shock.
It is. It reminded me of Fido.
Okay.
If you guys, that zombie comedy dramedy,
which is also Canadian. I think Fido was Canadian as well.
I believe so, and that's a really good movie.
Offbeat humor, and I like. That's another thing to talk about. I like funny horror stuff. Like, I'm not really. I take a funny horror movie over a serious horror movie any day. I love Return of the Living Dead. I think it's a hilarious movie. I really like even sillier things. Going back to the more nostalgic things like Bad Monster Party and things like that, where it's got the monster characters and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Absolutely.
All these like really kind of like things where you can have it on in a party. And, it's not like half the people are hiding under the punch bowl or whatever. You can kind of have a something that's a little more for, a general audience or for your party or for your family.
Well, I have friends and relatives who were not born here in the United States. And some of the, it's hard to find a film that has like a universal appeal. And even if you've never watched Frankenstein, Young Frankenstein is one of those movies, like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
God, that's so funny.
It just hits all the right, buttons. And it's, again, one of those films that still holds up today. I mean, I love Frankenstein.
It's great to contrast them and watch those Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, and Bride of Frankenstein, and see all the comparisons. They really did their homework making Young Frankenstein. There's so many.
They did. It's a love story in a way, to those original movies.
Well, see, now I'm going to have the violin music like stuck in my head the rest of the night. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you should cue that. I guess you get a copyright strike right immediately.
I think it depends on how many notes you
always used for everything. Like, I feel like every Universal monster in a certain era had Swan Lake as the theme song.
Bob, you have anything those on things? That? I'm like, all right, kind of works though, but
Because Dracula, they're playing Swan Lake, right? Frankenstein also.
The Mummy, the first Mummy film, So
Frankenstein versus the creature from Blood Cove.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Which we actually did present to a unsuspecting audience. Bob.
That was our Ghoul show.
Yeah, that was. We did 2 shows. One at Burlingame, and what was the other one?
That was out in Alameda.
Yeah, right. At the Air Force Base or military base. I forgot the name of that theater.
Yeah, I remember.
But then you showed it on Cinema Insomnia, right?
We did. We did a whole Cinema Insomnia episode, and it was honestly our biggest footprint of an episode because that was when I was in syndication and I was also on a satellite network. So, that Halloween episode from 2006 had a footprint of 45 million homes.
Wow.
And we had, and it was real good for William Winkler. At least he said he had a big boost in his DVD sales for his movie. And, we were hoping we could put it out with Alpha, but we weren't able to come to an arrangement for that particular episode. But you can watch that episode on my Roku channel, LSI 74. You can watch it on my Cinema Insomnia YouTube. It's out there. There's no paywall. So if you find it, watch it. But we did a whole election special where the creature was not that anyone's in the mood for political humor right now, but we did a whole the whole premise of the episode is that the creature was running against Frankenstein for King of Halloween for public office. And so there were these smear campaigns going back and forth, don't vote for the creature. He's a disgusting fish boy who lives in the water. Don't vote for Frankenstein. He's sewn together from corpses, But so we had the smear campaign ads and we had, we just kind of made fun of that whole thing because, there's nothing scarier than politics. So we just did that.
It's like Quisp and Quake.
Quisp and Quake. Now, this is a funny thing. Like, I saw a post online where someone said, "Okay, I understand Quisp because it's sort of like a play on the word crisp, but what the heck's a Quake?" And I'm like, "It's Quaker Oats, dude. That's the more obvious one than Quisp." But anyway,
the weird thing about Quake though was
obvious to me.
The weird thing about Quake though was he was a miner, right? And then at some point he changed into like a cowboy.
Yeah, exactly. And he never really quite was as cool as the alien of Quisp. Quisp was always much a million times cooler. Do you remember when, I think it was like the dollar store or something, like maybe 10 years ago, like suddenly, like just out of nowhere, a bunch of Quisp boxes just flooded a lot of the discount stores. I don't know if they were trying to bring it back or what, but I ended up having like 25 collapsed boxes of Quisp from that reissue in my hope chest, tear-stained boxes of Quisp.
I hope you checked the expiration date. It could have been original boxes they found.
New old stock, yeah.
Yeah, well, was it Funko has these like soda figures, and they have Quisp in those.
You know, Funko's been doing these fake cereals too. They have Elvira or different characters, and then it comes with a little box of cereal. But it's it's a vanity cereal. It's like the same cereal for every character, only with different shaped marshmallows or whatever. But it's always the same cereal. But it's really the box. You're just buying it for the box. You're just buying it for that box, you know. I mean, there's a lot of things that I just bought for the box, you know. A lot of terrible cereals. I remember I wanted Waffle-O's. There was a cereal called Waffle-O's that I really wanted really bad, and it turned the milk maple. And I would be gagging, trying to choke it. I couldn't tell my mom that it was making me gag because I begged for it so hard.
Oh.
And, I definitely didn't go for OJ's cereal after that because the Waffle-O's weren't going down right.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, who did all those Quisp and Quake and Captain Crunch commercials?
No.
It was Jay Ward.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Jay Ward did the same guy who did Rocky and Bullwinkle and George of the Jungle and Super Chicken.
Oh, man. Yeah. Wow. That probably explains why they were so funny, because like the Captain Crunch ones had some slight irreverence to them, I always thought. And now that you say Jay Ward, it's like I could totally see Captain Crunch and Quisp in that Rocky and Bull. We just need William Conrad to do the voiceover for the nutritious part of this nutritious breakfast. But Rocky and Bullwinkle is interesting because it's always one of those things that has this subversive slant to it that adults really like, and it stays with them because it's got this sort of sophisticated humor, you know. Sure. You know, they weren't making pablum. There was always that second layer of humor, you know, for someone else who was in the room who might catch it or might not.
I was saying, I always thought it was smart that Mr. Peabody was a dog and not like an adult scientist with the little boy Sherman. I mean, they could have gotten into some real trouble with that kind of a cartoon.
They couldn't do that today. All right, Rob, I want to hear it.
What's that? Oh, no, I was just saying if you can find a book called The Mouse That Roared, or The Moose That Roared. It's all about The Moose That Roared. It was all about Jay Ward Studios and how they started out and all the things they've done.
I mean, did they start in advertising? There always seemed to be sort of a Madison Avenue kind of slant to them.
No, they actually started with, what was it, Crusader Rabbit.
Oh,
way
back. My mom used to always talk about Crusader Rabbit, but, you know, I don't know if I've ever seen an episode of Crusader Rabbit.
It was a pretty primitive cartoon, but it caught on enough that they were able to get going into things like Rocky and Bullwinkle and later into George of the Jungle and all that.
A friend of mine, he missed his own wedding watching George of the Jungle in his hotel room. Yeah, he never heard the end of that. Needless to say, they're not married anymore. But yeah, that was not starting it off on the right foot. But it just shows you how obsessive people were with those shows, how popular they were. Did they do Underdog also? I always kind of thought it was sort of
no. That was another another studio.
Similar vibe. What about what's the one Jet? Roger Ramjet.
Roger Ramjet? No, they didn't. I don't think they did Roger Ramjet. I'd have to look. They might have.
I think that they probably caught the world on fire, and then everyone was trying to copy their style, right? I mean, that's usually what happened.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Rocky and Bullwinkle was huge back then.
Yeah. Wasn't there a huge statue of Bullwinkle somewhere?
Probably in
L.A., probably somewhere.
What? Cuckoo?
Oh, sorry about that. I need to turn that off. I have this. And I have to apologize. It's probably been going off the whole time. I have like attention deficit disorder, so I have a a cuckoo clock that reminds me that time actually passes. So every 15 minutes, I think, oh, where am I? What am I supposed to be doing? And that kind of keeps me on track. I forgot. My apologies for not turning it off.
Hey, let me ask you guys. I've always wondered, Easter has Easter-themed candies like the Cadbury egg and stuff like that. Why do you think there's never been any Halloween-themed candy? I mean, I know they come out with a pumpkin jack-o'-lantern version of the Reese's Peanut Butter Cup and stuff like that. Or am I missing something? Is there like a zombie arm white chocolate bar?
There's everybody's favorite candy corn.
Yes.
But how does that connect?
Corn, even though everybody hates candy corn, I actually like candy corn.
I don't know. I think because it's orange and yellow or something, but that always seems to be like the Halloween thing.
It does seem to be harvest themed, and it doesn't really seem to sell super well or be readily available any other time of year. But yeah, it doesn't really
makes me think of Thanksgiving.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
fall and Thanksgiving.
But it's definitely a harvest. Yeah, I definitely guess harvest time. The chocolate pumpkins, I guess, is the closest thing to the Easter thing, and I think that we're seeing more of that because I think I have seen some gummy zombie arms and gummy eyeballs and things like that.
Yeah,
but nothing that's really caught on in the same way as Cadbury cream eggs or anything like that. Like there's no at least I can't think of any go-to horror themed candy. I'm trying to think of one anyway.
Like a Cthulhu shaped jelly bean, fart flavored.
Well, nowadays you've got all the pumpkin spice this and pumpkin spice that comes out every Halloween.
Let me ask you guys this: we're coming up towards the end of the program here, but before we finish, I wanted to kick it up to the satellite. Karen, wanted to get a Halloween story from your youth. If you have one or two you want to share with us real quickly.
Well, Larry, you know me too well because there's a few stories, but so I do have one favorite one though. Which involves my brother Steve, of course.
Of course.
Steve is 6 years older than me. And when I was a small child, I had to emulate him because he was, of course, super cool being 6 years older than me. Everything that he did, of course, was just, the best thing ever.
Right.
So when I was about 3 or maybe almost 4, that year for Halloween, he was going to dress as Batman.
Oh, awesome.
So he had this really cool outfit. He had this, cloth outfit. He had the cloth Batman cowl, nice cape. He had the utility belt. Was it Remco that made the really nice utility belt and everything?
Oh, yeah, that yellow plastic one.
Yeah, the really good one with the little silver gun and the batarangs and stuff. So I didn't want to be Robin. I wanted to be Batman also. So they got me the Ben Cooper Batman outfit, which was too big for me. So they had to kind of, get the safety pins out and pull it up. The mask was freaking huge for my tiny little head. I could look out the eyes, but the jaw stuck down about 3 inches past my own head. So I was kind of waddling around in this oversized Batman.
Poncho. Yeah.
Yes. So there we were together, and the day of Halloween, I don't know, maybe it was a Saturday or something because we were home. And I remember my mom told me, oh, your Aunt Myra is coming over. So Aunt Myra was really our great aunt. She was my mother's aunt, and she was a very sort of delicate, prim lady. All right. And so she says, well, she's coming over. You guys go in the back room, and then when I tell you, you come out and show Aunt Myra your costumes. And we were all excited, so excited. So we hear the doorbell, and, they're in the room getting their coffee. Everybody back then had their coffee and cigarettes and everything. And she's like, okay, I'm going to open the door and you run out and show Aunt Myra your costumes. So she opens the door. Steve goes out first. I come waddling through the door second. My Aunt Myra jumps up, holding her chest, clutching her chest in absolute terror. We did not know she had a fear of what we now call little people.
Oh.
And this gasping scream escapes, sort of like a, oh. And she runs into the other room, not to be seen for some time. And I just remember seeing through my little holes in my mask all of this unfolding in front of me. And it's still very clear in my mind decades later. So,
well,
holy
let me just say,
midgets.
Walker, you may not have gotten a prize for that, but the prestige that goes with that costume is priceless.
You got a real honest to gosh scare. You know?
Yeah, it was something, and yeah, she didn't come over for a while after that.
And you're going to post a picture of that with the episode, right?
If I can dig up a picture, I'm not sure if I have a picture of us together. Steve might have it. I might have to ask him. But yeah, that was a good Halloween memory.
So here's something cool.
Gentlemen,
if you guys can all go back and dig through old photos, and we'll each try to post, or we'll send them to Karen, and she can post each of us in some little kid Halloween costume. Like
I'll go bother my mom. I haven't saved any of that stuff myself, but maybe I'll give.
Mr. Lobo, there's a $50 bill in it if you can find that. I'll tell you right now.
All right. Well, I will. I'll call my mom and I'll see how she can.
I'll tell you what. We'll also settle for an reenactment of the Yoda costume.
Yeah, I'll just do it this year. I'll be Yoda again this year. I'll be Grogu this year.
Oh, there you go. Maybe you can get someone to push you around in a little bassinet.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. A little pram, a little space pram.
Yes.
Yeah, it is interesting because, as a kid, you never understood those plastic costumes. I mean, obviously, one, they're very inexpensive. You can buy them at the grocery store, and, they don't have a lot of size variation. The other thing about those plastic costumes is usually it would be like if it was a picture of Spider-Man, sometimes it would just say Spider-Man, like on the front of the chest. And it was always infuriating where you're wearing a Lurch costume and it says Lurch on, the mask is Lurch's face, but it says Lurch costume on like the chest. And, if you're kind of a nerdy kid and you kind of want to be somewhat screen accurate or screen relatable, it's like that kind of stuff drives you insane as a kid. But what's interesting is I never really realized who that's really for. It's so that when the adults open the door, they go, "Oh, you're the $6 million man. Oh, and you're Fonzie. Oh, and you're Holly Hobby. Oh, and you're Mork from Ork." Like they know they can, because the kids can't see the costume anyway. They're looking out of it. In their mind, they're whatever character they are. Right. But then they feel like, oh, they recognized me.
There's liability issues like with Karen's Brent Meyer. I don't want to scare the shit out of this old woman, with this little this dwarf bat coming out.
Batmite. This is the original Batmite.
So how many of you wore your Halloween costumes for weeks after?
Oh, Bob, even as an adult, I tend to overheat easily. I'm always the guy sweating at the movies. And as a kid, those costumes were so hot. And I'm a big boy. So the seams started busting by lunchtime. And, it didn't last much longer past Halloween for me. The rubber band would break on the mask and whatever.
Yeah,
so
they last a few days of playing and then they were done for the most part. Yeah, I wasn't very technical. I mean, my costumes looked good on the day, but they were quickly dissolving and falling apart. I think by the end of the night, I was done with most of my costumes.
Like Cinderella.
A lot of my masks and stuff, like you were talking about the Dawn Post stuff earlier, it's like I would definitely sport a Frankenstein mask around the house for sure.
How about you, Chief?
Yeah, no, I would wear them as long as I could. It really depended on what they were, and because some of the Dawn Post stuff, or not Dawn Post, but the Ben Cooper stuff, some were vinyl and they wouldn't last that long, and then some were a really thin, like a cloth, and those would, and then you'd have some plastic accessories that went with it. Those would last a little while.
I remember I did get a cloth Spiderman costume one year. I think my mom has a picture of it. And it was breathable. It was like real, cloth. The problem is because I was a husky boy, the back wouldn't close.
Yeah, it's like a hospital gown.
And it's like so mom goes to the material store at the material section, JJ Newberry's, and picks up red cloth and sews a shut door, whatever, for the back of the car.
A modesty panel.
That costume I wore for a while because it was it was durable. One year, Mom, Star Wars was big, and we didn't have a lot of money for costumes, and I think I was in junior high, so me and my friend Kenneth, Mom got these garbage bags, black garbage bags, and she got some glow-in-the-dark tape, and she made like what her imagination thought were Star Wars costumes, and we had capes made out of the garbage bags. We went trick-or-treating, and this woman says, "Oh, look, are you guys garbage men?"
That's
like
always
so
the worst when you're misidentified in your costume.
I knew how Charlie Brown felt with all the holes in his ghost costume at that moment.
Well, that was always the thing when you went trick-or-treating and someone opens the door. Oh, and what are you supposed to be?
Yeah. I would have gave good money, Mr. Lobo, for that lurch on my chest at that point.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Oh, your lunch?
Yeah, your lunch.
Mom says when they would go trick-or-treating back in North Dakota, back in Bismarck, they'd go out with the pillow sheet from their pillow. And they would have to go back home and empty the pillow sheet.
Oh, damn.
Because they had so much candy and apples and oranges. And, people would give like almonds.
We used a pillowcase also. We used a pillowcase. That's what we used. We didn't have the plastic pails because it seemed like the handles would always break on them.
Yeah, thank you. Right. How about you, Bob? Any pillowcases?
I had pillowcases. I had plastic pumpkins. They also had like bags. But did you ever have to go begging on Halloween? Like the trick or treat for UNICEF?
Oh, no.
No?
No, I always saw the ads with Casper in the comic books trying to get kids to do that, right?
No, I mean, growing up in school, they'd always like hand the boxes out or something like day before Halloween and tell everybody, okay, go trick or treat for UNICEF.
And did you do that? Did you do it?
We had to. It was like it was like a mandatory thing.
Oh, okay. Wow.
You had to come back and
that's nice.
dump all your nickels and quarters into a big box.
It takes the commercial edge off of it a little bit if you're helping people, while you're going door to door. I mean, that's honestly
but where did
nice
that money actually go? It could still be a commercial thing.
Yeah, Casper was living large on that money. For sure. It is interesting. What about carving pumpkins? You guys carve jack-o'-lanterns?
Oh yeah.
To this day,
there are some people who cannot touch that stuff. Like they can't put their hands in a pumpkin. I mean, it is just the most repulsive thing to them, and I don't mind it at all. I can scratch around in there with a big spoon or whatever, or
you gotta get your hands in there and just scoop it out.
God love my mother. She would always scoop the gunk out for us.
Oh,
that takes all the fun out of it.
And then when the thing started rotting and collapsing, she'd put toothpicks in the little triangle nose and the triangle eyes to kind of help the jack-o'-lantern still stay.
Oh, wow. Mom was really enabling your bad behavior.
But see, you can't carve the pumpkins like 2 weeks before Halloween.
Yeah.
It was like Christmas, we couldn't wait to open the gift. On the 23rd.
We carved our pumpkins somewhat early sometimes, and then we left them late, too, until they just turned into just disgusting squalor and sludge on the front porch. Usually the last move for that pumpkin was usually a shovel going up under it and flipping it into the trash can.
Well, it gets all moldy and hairy inside.
Yeah.
But is there always that almost compulsion to do the really standard triangle eyeball, triangle nose, ghastly toothed mouth thing? I feel like that trope is so strong, and I feel like it's almost like it's it's amazing how universal that face is for jack-o'-lantern.
Well, it's all kind of like straight lines and right angles and things. It's
easy to cut.
You start making round eyes and stuff, and then it's like, it doesn't quite turn out that well.
Yeah, this eye.
Although now you got stencils,
right? And then you try to fix it, and then the other eye's a little bigger. You try to make the other round eye. Yeah, so you do those straight, quick cuts with the knife. You can get those eyeballs pretty symmetrical, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of these people who get those things and they're carving it's like the Sistine Chapel or something. They've got these murals around the pumpkin, and it's like, come on.
Give me the straightforward.
Though. I mean, at least someone can show off something that they can do, I guess, something creative.
I suppose so. It seems...
I don't know if I'd want to do that myself, though.
Yeah.
A lot of time investment.
Yeah, I don't have the patience for that. I'd rather just take the knife and just jab it in.
There's something very primitive about taking a knife and just
for sure.
stabbing the pumpkin.
Yeah, you go for your inner Norman Bates.
Mm-hmm.
For that. I always wanted to. I've never got them before, but they have those kind of like, I guess they're styrofoam ones, like at craft stores, where it's just a styrofoam pumpkin, and then you can just cut it in whatever shape, and has yellow matter on the inside, and so it looks like a real pumpkin, but it doesn't dissolve.
Yeah, I've got some of those in the basement just because my daughter used to work at Michael's, so she'd bring them home and we'd carve them up. I have one that I carved like Ultraman into, so I saved that one.
Ultraman, yeah.
I saved that one.
I want to see an Ultraman jack-o'-lantern for sure.
I'll take a picture of it this year and post it somewhere.
I feel like Ultraman would be the worst Halloween costume because you've got those two tiny little holes. It probably would be really hot, like you're in this rubber
however,
suit.
I'd collapse.
Ben Cooper had an Ultraman Halloween costume back in like 67, 68, something like that.
Man.
I never could find one, but Mark Nagata, who has a huge Ultraman collection, he has one, so I have seen it.
Oh, God, wow.
I've seen pictures of these things. Is
the plastic poncho silver or what?
It's like a gray.
Gray. That makes sense. Yeah. Gray and red.
I'll see if I can figure out if I can find a photo of it or something.
That'd be cool. Well, kids, we're coming towards the end of the episode.
Wow, already, man. This is so much fun.
Having fun. Don't forget your homework assignments. Find those photos of your childhood costume.
All right, I'll go bother my mom.
I might have a Zorro one.
I threw those away ages ago. You're not my son. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting what happens.
I think I have a Zorro one somewhere.
Oh wow, Zorro, that's pretty good.
Zorro.
I did have I'm embarrassed to say I had a Mork and Mindy one year.
Oh, Ben Cooper. I think I had Casper one year. I had Popeye, Spiderman.
Oh man!
I think there was a Superman and a Batman somewhere along the way.
I live right out here. I know you're from Ben Cooper country, but where I live right here is a stone's throw from Collegeville, which was kind of the competing company for those plastic masks. And we actually went into the warehouse where they have all that stuff, and where they were kind of closing them out. And they had gotten rid of all the cool stuff, but they still had molds for some of the original stuff, and they still had a lot of funny like eye patches and goofy teeth and a lot of other things that they made and distributed.
Nice.
But they're out of business now, unfortunately. So, well, actually, I think they're still. It's now just a small shop. It used to be a big, warehouse, but I think they still just sell like wholesale Halloween stuff in Collegeville. But
check that out. See, maybe they have an online presence.
Yeah, I wish they could come back like they did in the old days, but I don't know if anyone wants those plastic costumes anymore, other than as a novelty.
Yeah, well, you never know.
Well, you just have to make them adult size.
Well,
they were just
come to that part of the show where we have our censor sweep, and being that Mr. Lobo is our guest, Mr. Lobo, this is a chance for our listeners to hear about some items you might have on your website, what your website is, some live shows coming up. Would you care to share some of that information with us?
Oh, thank you so much, Planet 8. I always appreciate you guys letting me yammer on. But it's going to be a busy October for us. We've got 3 pop-up drive-in shows that we're doing at the Vintage Cafe. So that's on the 8th, the 15th, and the 22nd at the Vintage Cafe in Paradise, Pennsylvania. We have a little screen that we pop up. There's hot dogs and hamburgers, and we're going to do trunk or treat and all that kind of thing.
Nice.
And then we have I've been doing my Twitch streams on Saturday nights, which we've been doing double features every Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, and I usually do a live Q&A on Saturday nights with people. And we've got a brand new Cinema Insomnia episode that we're working on with Rick Sloane's The Visitants is the movie, and we licensed the movie. So this is not a movie that is a public domain movie, so we're excited about that. And we're also, I have OSI 74, which is my streaming channel, which is a free channel. You can watch Cinema Insomnia on there. Cinema Insomnia is also has its own YouTube channel, Cinema Insomnia, the YouTube channel. We've got 60 episodes of Cinema Insomnia on there. Again, I don't like to put things behind paywalls because, when we were kids watching Creature Features, it just came out over the air and we just found it, so we want to try to keep that going. And then on Halloween night, I'm hosting VidJam of Horror. VidJam is a filmmaker challenge. On the 22nd of September, the 13 groups of filmmakers got a random prop, and they're to make a short horror film in 12 days. And they've already submitted. This is the third. Yep, they've submitted them all today. All of the short horror films. And on Halloween night at the Midtown Cinema, Mr. Lobo is going to be hosting all of the short films from the Filmmaker Challenge. So it's going to be a busy month for me.
Well,
hopefully, it doesn't put me underground.
That sounds so cool. I wish we lived closer. I'll tell you, I personally love shows, Mr. Lobo, here in the Bay Area.
What was that? I couldn't hear you.
I was saying I certainly miss your live shows out here in the Bay Area.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, hopefully Bob will bring me out again sometime.
Yeah, we gotta see. We gotta come up with some shows. So
yeah. Let me just say again, Horrible Noises of Mr. Lobo's Very Bad Manner CD. It's on his OSI 74 site. If you Google Mr. Lobo, I was going to say he's all over the interwebs. But go ahead, Mr. Lobo, with the OSI.
I was just going to say, if you wanted the Horrible Noises of Mr. Lobo's Very Bad Manner, OSI74.square.site is the actual shop. So if you wanted to get either that CD or my other CD, which is called Hypnosis for Hipsters, you can get either one of those if you still have a CD player in your house.
Well, kids, I'm on the site right now, and there's DVDs, there's CDs, there's photos. Unfortunately, I missed out on the Mr. Lobo Cinema Insomnia 10-year anniversary fan club kit. It's out of stock, but I am happy to say...
We're going to make more.
Mr. Lobo.
I can't wait.
If you reach over here, kids, you're not going to be able to see this, but I do still have my Cinema Insomnia decoder ring proudly in the...
Yeah, that's one of the original ones from our old fan club kit, so I appreciate you as being an official knight. It's very cool that you still have that.
Mr. Lobo will send you a message later tonight.
Oh, Bob, he has been for the past decade. I just, quiet about it. So.
At the end of every episode, and we've got 23 of them on DVD now, but through Alpha. But at the end of every episode, in the credits, there's a secret message if you have your decoder ring.
There you go. Well, look, again, Mr. Lobo, it had been too long since we had you on prior to today, so we're going to bring you back a lot sooner than we did. Thank you for coming out, for being on the show and sharing your stories with us and just having a great conversation. We appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. You're so gracious, and it's like I know that I'm like extra sloppy and a little tired, but it was really pleasant to have this conversation with good friends, and I hope everyone has an amazing Halloween this year.
Awesome. Yes, from Planet 8, guys, have an awesome Halloween and stay safe.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.
Shrieks through the trees. Children laugh and pumpkins grin, and an unmistakable surge of evil is felt as darkness falls.
Pounding at the door. gang of ghouls screamed trick or treat, and I warned them of the house at the end of our street. Don't haunt the house at the end of the street. Last year, 20 kids got sick. Poison candy they did eat. People say it was the house at the end of the street. Don't haunt the house at the end of the street. Don't trick or treat, don't trick or treat, don't leave the house at the end of the street.
Apples filled with razor blades and pins behind the shades. Never ever go inside, 'cause they come out at night. Disappear, waiting for them to meet when they go in the house at the end of the street. Don't haunt the house at the end of the street. Don't trick or